Hello guys, this is Dumber Orange 927 here, back again for another video for you guys, and here today I wanted to discuss basically the first part of my of what I was trying to explain about the art style of Halo and some of the issues that it's going through from an art standpoint. Now, look. In prominence, I have to get this out of the way. I'm not a complete hater of the new art style. It's not like I'm stating everything I'm about to say here is only saying 343 sucks, I'm a Bungie fanboy, whatever. Like, you can call me that if you want, but that's not what I'm trying to be right now. What I'm trying to explain to everyone is the problems that people see within the art style, and I think it's important because Halo Wars 2, in most cases, has stepped substantially in the right direction in terms of art style. However, I have to make sure that this good direction continues and doesn't just fall into something that's forgotten and never discussed again. So, the first part of this is coming with the Spartan armor. Now, the reason I state this is the Spartan armor is it's a very weird subject because it's one of the highest debated ones in terms of art style, but as well as this, it's one that's difficult to really comprehend where it went wrong. So I guess I'm gonna have to start where Bungie started. Back during Combat Evolved, the whole purpose of the Bungie armor was to give the illusion of an empowering soldier. You were the best of the best of the best. You were meant to be, the last of your kind, basically. The last of the Spartans. The last of these dudes who could eliminate anything in their path. And Halo Combat Evolved did a good job of creating that. All the Marines were more skinny and nimble, while you were this big, large, juggernaut-like being who practically was almost 2 feet taller than a Marine and could practically design you in a way that you could feel like you could take on the world. And Bungie had that style in mind when it came with the armor, and prominently this was carried forward in Halo 2 and 3. Granted, the armor was more skinny in those games, but it still contained that illusion of this bulky-like armor. And that's what people liked at the time. And multiplayer armor applied the same way. Now, as time went by, Halo 3 ODST came, but really that art style was nearly identical to Halo 3's. And then we had, finally, the one that began to change. Halo Reach. Now, before, people go, what does Reach have anything to do with this? Reach started a lot of trends, and despite how much I love the game, I do admit it did start a lot of trends that were negatively impacting Halo. First thing it did is pretty much it completely overhauled and updated all the armor. It was still the Bungie armor we were familiar with. However, pretty much it pretty much updated it to make it look different, to make it look like something you would see more often than not in let's just say it's more often than not something you would see in a more real-life military, rather than, this dreamlike fantasy type world that Bungie created in its original trilogy. And roughly, people had its fans. The Halo Reach look had its fans, and others disliked it. Personally, I was kind of down the middle. I think it was... I think for the most part the change was pretty good, but I do agree with people saying it was starting to look a bit too different, and it can moderate itself a bit better. But then came Halo 4. And this is where the 99% of the Halo fans start to legitimately have problems with the look of Halo. Halo 4 came out, and 343, like as I stated in the last video, 343 wanted to be able to prominently change up its art style to be able to make it feel like theirs, in order to get used to everything, and in order to try new things. And doing that in it of itself, in my view, isn't necessarily a bad thing. But the problem with it is that they didn't take what Bungie had. Rather than trying to take everything Bungie built and build upon it, they instead grew to change everything and make things worse. Like, Reach was already criticized by people by going a bit far from the art style, and 343 should have they should have taken notes from that. But rather than trying to find a middle ground and moderate the art style, they instead over-bizarre it to the point where it looks like something completely different. And the Spartans were a big issue with this, as basically the Bungie Spartans always had the distinguished look of being these bulky type, tall super soldiers that were big, strong. They looked like they could probably carry like an anchor. And practically speaking, they were purposely designed to create this massive look. And then when 343 took over, they went into a direction that not many were expecting. They went into a slim direction. Now, people go like, what do you mean by slim direction? What do you mean? Like, the armor just looks like armor, like it still looks like a super soldier. And yes, while I can say that's true, the problem is that what came about it is that the armor was altered to the point where it was looking more like slim, plasticky look, rather than this glorious, massive armor that made you feel like you could take on the world. And granted, this part is more of a story standpoint, which I will discuss in another video. However, another thing that kind of fails to add to that illusion, not just how the Spartan's a lot smaller and more slim, but what makes matters worse is that with 343, both in a storytelling and with everything else, there's tons of Spartans, like they're everywhere, and creating the illusion that you're like the special one has practically been removed at this point. And that makes matters even worse. Now, I'm not going to argue and just say everything about 343's look is bad and it's hurting. There are some benefits to the Spartan art style. For example, probably the biggest thing I like about the new art style for the Spartans are probably like Master Chief's armor. I'll be honest, while some people really dislike the look of Master Chief's armor, I pretty much love it. I think it just takes what Halo 2 and 3's look had and just add stuff to it, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Now, yes, do I believe it was a bit unnecessary and kind of stupid in Halo 4 how he had that armor from the very beginning of Halo 4 instead of the classic Mark 6? Yes, without a doubt, but that's more of a storytelling thing, which again I will get into another video. However, the issue when it comes with this art style in terms of the Spartans also comes with the fact that the Spartans themselves just have some bizarre looking armor. Like, while yes, Master Chief and Blue Team and maybe pretty much even Osiris, while they may look fine and they look pretty good as Spartans, I don't really doubt them in terms of that. The issue is I cannot say the same for the rest of the game, like the multiplayer Spartans especially, when some of them have like these one-eyed looks, and some people of the Spartan helmets literally look blocky and like very like out of place, where I'm saying to myself, how could a Spartan even see through that? And I'm saying to myself, what happened? Look, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna say Bungie never had this. Like, Bungie did have that one helmet in Halo Reach that was like that one-eyed thing that Machinimas kept using as like drone robots or just people who were like cyborgs. And yes, it looked a bit out of place and stupid. Despite it looked cool, but I do admit it was a bit out of place, but that was just one helmet. While 343 had literally altered it to the point where, like, practically every single armor and helmet has this look to it where it questions logic. And what makes matters worse is I'm questioning to myself, how would this even work? Like, how would a real military use this? And prominently, my next problem when it comes with the Spartans is the art style has become so convoluted with the way all the armor looks, the way it has this kind of like plastic-like look with all the coloring kind of blending in with each other rather than standing out. And I'll be honest, it almost makes all the Spartan armor look the same. And that's honestly the biggest problem, and that's what compromises Halo's identity with the art style that 343 has given us. And the Spartans are probably the worst victim of this. As practically now, yes, while I can say the 343 Spartans you can still tell apart from like a super soldier from like another franchise, you can't distinguish them from each other. Like, for example, in Halo 3, everyone could tell the difference of what a recon armor looked like versus the ODST armor. It was distinguished. Everything was new, and it had complete different shadings, complete different armor of, like, bulkiness and skinniness and, like, all this good stuff. And then, you know, with 343, I feel like since they've tried so hard to get all the Spartans to have this consistent, like, blend to them, it's made it where it's almost impossible to, like, tell them apart. Like, I'll be honest, in Halo 5 multiplayer, I don't look at a guy and see his armor and go, oh my gosh, that armor is bad A. And yes, that somewhat blames the rec system, and again, I've covered that because, you know, luck. But it's also because I'm just saying it's not that different from this armor or that armor. It's like it all looks the same. Back in Halo Reach, when I saw a guy wear like the Emil helmet, I was like, and like he was wearing like bulky armor and all this like powerful equipment and having it where his chest plate had like grenades on it and all that, I was thinking, man, this guy looks awesome. He will be a devastating like opponent or like an awesome ally to have. He just looks like someone I would want to be around. And eventually in Halo Reach and Junk, I built my character to look a bit like that. And it gives you the sense of accomplishment that you're able to distinguish every Spartan look from each other. And that's what I honestly loved about Halo 3 and especially Halo Reach so much. None of the armor looked the same. And granted, yes, those games have more customization options than Halo 5, but that's not the reason why. Granted, some of it, but this comes down to the fact that if Halo 5 is going to restrict our customization stuff, which I wish they didn't, they have to at the very least distinguish things from each other. Otherwise, there's no point in having an armor that looks really that different. The only reason I switch my armor in Halo 5 at all is just because I get tired of looking at the same helmet or the same armor plate, and I just try as hard as I can to find something that's semi-different. That's why I was grateful when Halo 5 had the Reach helmet pack, which like had a bunch of helmets from like the Halo Reach era. Because I'm like, yay, armor that can distinguish me. And it's just not the case anymore. So overall, guys, my point is that the Spartans, do they look horrible beyond imagination? No. I don't think they look bad, and I think the artists did, like, you know, they put effort into the armor, especially on the campaign side of things. But I feel like they have compromised the way Halo looks by trying so hard to make the armor just look the way they want. They have to accept the fact that there's a very distinct look for Spartans, and they need to appeal to that. And in some areas they do. The Master Chief armor, I'm fine with. You know, Agent Locke, bit slim, but overall he looks cool as well. And the reason I like the armors that those characters provide, as well as Bach, Vale, Tanaka, and all of Blue Team, is because they all look distinguished. And that's something that the Halo 5 multiplayer, for right now at least, doesn't have much of. And it needs to work on that, as I believe that's in my opinion, that's the main reason why I don't think the art style is that well received, as it just doesn't distinguish itself from each other. And, you know, if you want some of the new Spartan armors in your next Halo, that's fine. Well, granted, you're gonna kind of have to do it due to, you know, all the characters coming back, but add some of the old with the new. That way, everything is distinguished from each other. And for gosh sakes, and this is something I will discuss in the rec system video, for gosh sakes, stop doing armor variants where the only difference is like a color shade. Like, just no. But yeah, guys, that's about it for this video. I thank you for watching, and look, I hope I did cover some things that were good, and I hope at the very least that I hope what I had to say was respectful, even if you didn't quite agree with it. And overall, guys, thank you for watching, but my point is clear. The Spartans need to distinguish themselves so that way they can look different, so they can look unique, and most importantly, they can look like the glory, awesome Spartan badass that we stepped foot in back in Halo Combat Evolved. And all the way from there to Reach. Till next time, guys.